Hello and welcome to Small Town Big Business, a podcast about doing big business in small town rural America. I'm Jennifer Olson, Director of Business Development for the City of Marion.
And I'm Russell Williams. I'm Director of EThOs. EThOs is a small business incubator, co-working spaces, training and development here in downtown Marion, Illinois, and Arcadia Wealth Group, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Swinford Media Group, the Watermark Auto Group Foundation, Banterra Bank, and also Southern Illinois has made this podcast possible, and we thank them.
So we are still out on all of the major podcast channels, but now you can get their single source. So if you go to ethosmarion.org, it will link you to all the platforms. And if you just can't do without the video version of this, I don't know why you would, you can see the YouTube there also at the Ethos Marion website.
Excellent. We have some excellent guests.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce them?
Sure. Well, I mean, speaking of small town, nothing represents Southern Illinois quite as well as what I like to call the Napa Valley of the Delta, and that is Cobden, Illinois. And today we have the next generation in the future of Flamm Orchards, Austin Flamm and Parker Flamm.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We were chatting just a little bit earlier, talking a little bit about the history and the backstory. There's a lot of history. We may have to have a couple of hours of show here today. But give us a little summary about the history of the orchard and how you guys ended up being managers now.
Well, we've been in Cobden since 1888. Our family's been there doing the fruit business since then. We're the sixth generation back on the farm. We're there currently with our dads and another family member, their fifth generation. So keeping it rolling. And you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, like Parker said, he and I both kind of got together back when we were in college and made the decision that we both wanted to come back to the farm. I'm a year older than Parker is, so I was up first, the guinea pig, I guess, and one of my huge criteria for doing such was making sure that he was going to come back, because the way our business is set up, it'd be very difficult to do it on your own. So it's been great. Parker and I grew up on the farm together. It's kind of what we were raised in. We like to say it's not really a job, it's a lifestyle. But yeah, day in and day out, it seems like we're just trying to keep going what's been given to us. So.
And you guys are first cousins?
Yes.
Correct.
Moms or dads or brothers?
Our dads are brothers.
Dads or brothers. Yep. Okay, excellent. And they were in the business? Your dads were in the business their entire life too?
Yep, and they're still there with us every day.
Okay.
So we kind of joke we're their retirement plan.
There you go.
So it's starting to phase out, and we're starting to take over. So
that's awesome.
So born and raised, is there a university that you might like to plug at this point?
Well, I went to SEMO, so you probably don't want my plug on that. But I went to SEMO, majored in ag industry. Parker, though, he went to SIU.
yeah, I went to SIU, graduated in 2019 with my bachelor's in ag business, and went on to get my master's degree as well. So go Dogs, proud Saluki alum, and yeah.
That's awesome. So way back in, you said
1888.
88. Okay.
So
what can you tell us about that?
Our great-great-great-grandfather came over on a boat from Germany in the late 1860s. He worked odd-end jobs until he saved up enough money. After a couple of years, he brought the rest of his family over. They actually leased the farm that we're at now, starting sometime in the late 1860s or early 1870s, and it wasn't until 1888 that they were able to purchase the farm. So that's our founding as a business was in 1888. So this is our 136th year in business.
Wow.
He, along with his son, started growing fruit. Cobden historically is a great region for growing fruit. The topography of our land and the heavy clay-dense soil and the elevation, all that comes together to produce high-quality fruit. Historically, Cobden has had a lot of fruit growers. We're about the only ones left in our area, outside of some smaller growers that are doing more farmers markets type stuff. Throughout the generations, it seemed like it just kept getting handed down. It became A. Flamm and Sons. For Parker and I's sake, we knew the fourth generation onward, our grandfather and his two cousins, big inspirations in our life. And then our dads and a few of their cousins, and we've recently bought out a couple of our dad's cousins, and that's where we come into the picture as the sixth generation. So
Awesome. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about who's left in the game. Do you have any historical reference to kind of what it used to look like versus now as far as numbers or different crops grown?
I can remember my grandfather told me one time that when he was in high school, and he graduated high school in 1953, at that time there was about 35 families in Cobden that made their living off of growing fruit. And right now, we are probably the only family left in Cobden making our sole living off of growing fruit.
Yeah.
And over the generations, as far as what we produce is ever changing. It's tricky. You kind of got to gauge the future, what 10 years might bring, because you plant an apple tree, it's not for production next year, or a peach tree, it's for 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road. So you kind of got to constantly be looking forward and kind of guess a trend as to what you might see happening. We used to do a lot more apples than what we do now. Part of that's due to these new, what they call club varieties, are hard to grow in our climate. So we don't have as many apple acreage as what we used to, but peaches we've ramped up. So that's something we feel like we can grow just as good of a peach as anybody in the country. So that's something we're really trying to build upon. And in the early 2000s, the fruit market was tough. So we phased away from that and did more vegetable production. And that's kind of flip-flopped over the last decade or 15 years. So we're less vegetables, more fruit. So you just kind of got to constantly be monitoring what you think might happen down the road, and even as far as a decade. So
Yeah. What do you give credit to for six generations? Because you said that there had been a lot of orchards around Southern Illinois, and now there's not. So what would you say is really the key to keeping it going?
I think just, kind of instilled in us growing up, there's a lot of hard work that goes into what we do, and you have to be willing to show up every day and put in the extra hours. I think it's something that, as we were growing up, everybody tells you, oh, it gets in your blood. It gets in your blood. And I think Parker and I are both at that stage in our life where we're starting to really experience that. It's kind of love it or hate it. It's what we're here to do. I think when I first was trying to decide, okay, is coming back to the farm what I want to do with my life, I think for me a big part was just like that legacy farmer aspect. It's I want to be the sixth generation, and I want to carry on my family's tradition. And so that was a big motivating factor for me. We were fortunate to know our grandfather really well. Between him and both of our dads, they were big inspirations. You want to do what your dad does. You want to do what your grandpa does. And for me personally, that's one of my big driving forces is I want to continue that on. And I have a young son now, and if he gets to the point where he decides he wants to come back to the farm, I want to be able to offer him that and give him the same opportunity that I was given. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not going to push him to do it. I was never pushed to come back to the farm. I just, it was the best thing for me to do at the time, and I don't regret it. So
yeah, kind of to go off what Austin said, the lifestyle is part of it, not just for us. Austin has a son now. I don't have any children yet, but we grew up on the farm together. It was every summer, you're running around watching them pick peaches and part of it, and getting ice cream at 10 a.m. whenever we open, it's part of the fun. And it's really a family lifestyle that I'd like to see, like Austin said, my family have the opportunity to do that someday. And if they choose to come back and take over the farm, great. And if not, that's fine too. But I was blessed with that opportunity, and I'd like to see them blessed with that as well. So. Yeah.
So you touched on ice cream. So there's kind of this storefront, and I would call it dessert stand because there's a little more than ice cream there, but that's probably a very minor part of your business. So talk me through like distribution, like how far and wide, where will people see your products? What kind of stores are you in?
Yeah, so I'd say 99% of people in Southern Illinois that know of Flamm Orchards know us because they know that we have peach cobbler, and you can come buy fresh fruits or vegetables at our storefront. And that's great, and it is the face of our business, whether we want it to be or not. It's something that we started back in around the turn of the century, about 2000. And it was all of our grandmother's recipes. They used to make it in her own kitchen. Then we put a bakery in. We're getting ready to expand our bakery this winter and move it on site to a much more convenient location and expand that and make it larger.
The bakery started as we'll start in this room and see how it goes, and it's taken off, and it should have been upgraded 10 or 15 years ago, and it's just never happened. So we're excited this year to finally be able to take that next step and move forward with that to increase our production. So it's exciting.
Yeah, classic case of catching up.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure outfitting a commercial kitchen is not what ag business degrees are teaching you, right?
No. But, when it comes right down to it, I think I've learned a lot more just being on the farm than I ever did in the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you kind of learn the economic side and the business side of things. And you learn how to network and interact with people, which is very important, and especially my job at Parker's as well, because I'm talking to customers constantly. But learning how to actually do it and get the job done, it's all about just getting in there and doing it and figuring it out. But as far as where we distribute, 80 to 90% of our business on any given year comes from wholesale. We are a commercial orchard. We deal with everything from what we call peddler business, where it's people that want to come buy one pallet of peaches from us to take to farmers market, all the way up to we'll ship semi-trailer loads to the largest chain stores across the nation. We've dealt with people like the Walmarts and Kroger's, and more recently we've got into some farm stores. Currently, right now, our largest apple buyer is Rural King. We supply apples to every Rural King in the nation. Wow. And that's something that just came about 5 years ago. Kind of fell in our lap type of situation. But, so you can find our stuff at all the Kroger's in Southern Illinois, at many of the farmers markets that are farther north in larger populations, Springfield, Peoria. We have customers that are taking some peaches there. Where you can always reach out and ask, and we'll tell you wherever you're located, the best way to find it.
That's good.
Well, I didn't know if people see the Flamm brand in store, or is it, sort of grocery store merchandised in a way that it's just another product?
Locally, you should see our in the local Kroger stores, our Flamm name and brand is, and a lot of our peaches, for instance, go to the Louisville division Kroger stores, which actually services Southern Illinois. But all of our packaging is branded, so yeah, you should be able to find somewhere on there that associates it with Flamm Orchards.
Yeah,
that's a big thing that Parker and I have worked on over the last year and a half. Really, is trying to give ourselves a bigger brand name and rebrand our business and our company. We want you to be able to recognize the logo wherever you see it on whatever product we have. We're in the process of switching over all of our packaging to match that brand, and kind of just be more associated with that singular tie back to us and our business.
Yeah, over our 136-year history, we don't know that there's ever been a Flamm brand that's consistent amongst all products. We've got different packaging styles for every different product. So we're trying to make everything more universal, one brand. So it's something we've incorporated really just this year. We kind of got it finished up and started switching everything over. So
a funny tidbit kind of about our farm, and I think any other farmers would agree to this. You come back to become a farmer, and that involves doing the work and all of that. And it seems like in our industry and our business and what we're doing, it seems like every day we become less farmers and more part of a business. Yeah. And we're trying to treat it more that way, because if you don't adapt and change with the times, you fall behind. Yeah. And Parker and I's great uncle, who's since passed away, I can remember when I first came back to the farm, he told me one time, and it's resonated with me, I always think about it, says if you're not growing, you're dying. Yeah. And you have to constantly have growth and show that you're moving forward and progressing. So that's something that Parker and I really focus on and try and always do. And we look down the road and what's going to be best in a year, 5 years, 10 years from now.
Yeah. Let's talk about the variety of your products, because you start with strawberries each year, correct? Yep. So what's production size for strawberries, just straight strawberries without?
Our strawberry deal's really grown since COVID. our strawberries, we started out in about the year 2000 when we started our fruits and cream store with 1 acre of strawberries, and it kind of evolutionized. And I think by around 2008, 9, we were up to 5 acres. And like I said, it's really just kind of exploded the last decade, and then really since COVID. And now we're up to about 17 acres of strawberries. So, and those are primarily all sold out of our retail roadside store. Right. We don't do much wholesale business with those. But it's really grown and become a staple crop for us. I know not long ago it was up for debate if we would even continue strawberry production, but we stuck with it through the hard years, and it's one of our staple crops now. So,
and then you do at the store jellies and jams and.
Yes, we do seasonal desserts with every crop. So during strawberry season, we have strawberry shortcake, we have strawberry jam, all of our good sweet strawberry treats.
So who makes that?
We have a bakery on site, and we have an employee. That's her sole job. Is she's our full-time baker, does all the baking and gets all that good stuff ready to go. And they're our grandma's original recipes that we still use. So it's something that we kind of hang our hat on. Those are our recipes. And
do they can the strawberries?
We do all the canning and jam making, all that.
Okay. And then peaches next season?
Yeah. So we're doing like 350 acres of peaches. That's primarily a wholesale crop for us, but we do offer peach cobbler, peach jam. In our little fruits and cream stand, we have the peach razzles and peach sundaes and anything that you can imagine with ice cream and peaches, we'll offer that. Still our grandmother's recipe. We take a lot of pride in that. It's something that whenever we first opened it, everybody gathered around her table and taste tested a few different things, and that's the one. So it's really meaningful to us whenever somebody has it and they compliment you on how good it is. Oh, thanks. Well, that's our family recipe, So, and then with apples, we go into apple pie, apple dumplings, apple bread. So
the building of this new bakery that we discussed earlier, we're building it with the intentions as well to maybe get into some other processing avenues down the road. Apple cider is a big thing, so we're kind of building this bakery with intentions and space to maybe get into more cider and apple butter, apple sauce, sliced fruit, and fruit cups is a big thing. So that's part of the bakery edition as well. It's just kind of keeping all that in mind too, to maybe, there you go again, thinking 5-10 years down the road as to what other products and things we can throw in to make more use of our byproducts that would otherwise not be used.
So I know you have lots of big ideas, but talk about some of the things you've already implemented with the logo truck and success you've had with Tractor Supply and other things that you've already accomplished.
Yeah, so our peach truck is something that we've talked about for a few years now. There's a peach truck out of the South where it's people that drive to Georgia or South Carolina. They buy a load of peaches, they bring them to population centers, and they sell them off the back of their truck for a ridiculous amount of money.
Not 16.
No. And so because of that, it kind of put that idea in our head, okay, we need to maybe look into doing something like that. And in more recent years, they've been kind of encroaching on our area here in the Midwest and then through the state of Illinois. So we approached Rural King initially and asked them if they'd be interested in partnering with us and letting us use their locations to set up a peach truck, thinking it'd be beneficial for both us and them, bringing in customers. And they weren't really fond of that idea, but what that Rural King did lead to is they said, well, do you grow apples as well? Oh, yeah, we have apples. And like I said earlier, Rural King's now our largest apple buyer, so we stumbled upon this opportunity with them without really trying. And that's how business goes, and that's the fun side of it for us. So fast forward to now, we had heard that tractor supply companies were open and willing to let people set up and do what we were wanting to do with the peach truck at their locations. So we looked at some population centers across the state, found 4 locations that were willing to let us come set up our peach truck. We got our truck wrap for just the branding purpose so people would know where they were coming from. And we're off and running now. We've done 3 of our 4 weekends already, getting ready here in a couple weeks to do our last one. And it's been a huge success from what our expectations would have led us to believe. And we're talking now about how we're going to make this thing happen next year because we're going to need another truck and more help. And so problems, but good problems.
It just feels like such an excellent way to introduce people to the brand so they know to look for it in store. Or, we love to have them come for a visit, of course. I feel like you guys are your own tourist attraction and certainly a great gateway to the Shawnee or Bald Knob Cross. So just appreciate you kind of doing boots on the ground outbound marketing. I mean, it's hard work, and it's not a brochure and a rack. It's
amazing. It's amazing. We've been the ones going to do the peach truck. I went a couple weekends. Parker's going a couple, and it's amazing how many people you meet at places 4 or 5 hours away from home that have been to our farm before. They've been to Cobden. They know of the wine trail. And I mean, like you said, the tourist attraction of Cobden in general. I mean, home of the apple knockers. I'm going to do a shameless plug for Cobden. We have the wine trail. We have the orchards. We have unique and delicious restaurants. And it's a place that you can spend the weekend, and it's family friendly. It's fun with a group of your friends. It's a great place to come and spend time.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about your workforce. So you have a migrant farm workers population. How far back does that go? Does that go from the beginning? Were there maybe European immigrants first that worked the farm? I don't know.
Yeah. So throughout time, it's, you use who's available. At the earliest onset of our business, I couldn't answer that. I think it was more or less local people, immigrants, people that needed work. I guess we should also point out that what we're doing is excruciatingly hard work. Everything that we harvest is done by hand. I mean, you're out in the heat day in and day out. There's no harder worker in my mind than the people who are picking our products for us. But throughout time, it's, there was a lot of the tenant farmers who would be down in like the Boot Heel of Missouri, and then their families would travel up here. We'd set up like a tent city for them on our farm. They'd stay for 2 weeks, harvest the old school Alberta peaches. It took 2 weeks to pick, pack, and ship your entire crop, and it was over. And then as seasons expanded, varieties changed, it turned into, needing more labor. There were a lot of high school kids. That was a summertime job for them in the 50s and 60s. Back in World War II era, I actually just read an article recently about the history of it, but we had German POWs from the camp in Pomona working on our farm in August of 1945. So yeah, it's one of those deals you just adapt and change with your labor demands and needs and go forward, and that's what's brought us to where we're at today.
Yeah. In the late 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of migrant workers, in the early 2000s even, and you don't see those anymore. People used to just show up. They'd follow the harvest from the south up to us and continue on to Michigan. We don't have that anymore. So it was around 2008 we started the H2A Worker Visa program. So right now on our farm, 100% of our employees are H2A workers. They come up seasonally from Mexico, and we provide housing, transportation to and from work. We provide transportation for them up here from Mexico. But it's a super costly program. But without it, we would have been done 15 years ago. And they're great people, great workers. They want to be here. They want to work. We have pretty much the same guys, same people every year. So it tells you that they enjoy it and they think it's worthwhile too. So it's been a great program for us, but it's very costly. So
Do you know if their country of origin, like primarily it was Mexico, but now it might be a little bit other Central and South American countries? Do you know if that's changed at all?
On our farm, it hasn't.
Okay.
We source our guys entirely from Mexico.
Okay.
Now, in the H2A guest worker program, there's multiple countries. A lot of row crop farmers use people from South Africa because they can speak English. We're fortunate. We do hire local people as well, and we have some like employees that are like management level, and they do a lot of our translating for us. And so we've found a way to make it work with the language barrier. Like Parker said, though, number one, we couldn't do what we do without having good, reliable help. And number two is the help that we have. There's nothing wrong with the way they're doing things. They're great people. They're accountable, hardworking, trustworthy. We couldn't be happier with the quality of employees that we get in now compared to what it was 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. Because on the tail end of that surge of migrant workers, I think we were running into a lot of different trouble. You'd have people who wouldn't show up or be getting in trouble outside of work. And it got to the point where we had to come up with a change in a hurry. Yeah. And in 2007, we brought in our first H2A workers, and it's just grown ever since.
What is your workforce count at max?
We've got just over 100 employees when we're up and running full steam.
I believe this year we have touch over 120 on payroll. When we were big into vegetables a few years back, we had upwards of like 150 at one time. So it keeps us busy.
Yeah, that's huge.
We've got 82 visas, so 82 of those are H2A employees. And of that 120, that includes our employees in our retail store as well. So,
yeah. What's the total acreage now for the farms?
Total, we've got about 2,000 acres. Now, a lot of that is, woods or idle ground. In production, we have about 700 acres of fruit trees and miscellaneous vegetables from year to year, probably about 100 acres of different vegetables that we do.
Yeah. Is that acreage, has it been expanding? Has it expanded last 10 years, or is it going to? What's your dream?
The fruit acreage has expanded over the last 10 years. The vegetable acreage has gone down due to markets and
you mentioned that earlier, is that switching away from vegetables was part of the trend.
And, the thing about vegetables, unlike our fruit trees, is you can change year to year. You can decide to plant more of a certain crop or less of one for whatever reason. With us, between climate issues and market issues, it seems like some of the vegetables we used to do are quickly becoming obsolete. But that's why we made a big push to put in more peach trees and grow our acreage in the orchard side of things. And that's something that just changes every few years. You're just back and forth on that. Like Parker mentioned earlier, used to we were growing 200,000 bushels of apples a year on our farm, maybe up to 250,000. Now a big crop for us might only be 70 or 80,000 bushel.
Right.
So, the apples have become less, but we're probably growing as many or more peaches on our farm today as we have ever.
Yeah.
So how many variety of peaches?
We got about 10 to 12 varieties. We grow all yellow flesh peaches. We have no fully clean peaches. We have semi-clean and free stones. There's really, if you did a blind taste test of every variety that we grow, you couldn't tell the difference in any of them. Yeah. The variety is based more on the readiness time and harvest dates. So we like to be able to start peaches by late June, early July, and continue harvesting fresh peaches all the way until about Labor Day every year.
And which one of those did you bring today? He apologized earlier.
We're about halfway here.
But we can show up any day, maybe get some. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. This year has been a totally odd year. We've been about 2 to 3 weeks early on everything. It seems like normally when you start early, you don't necessarily end early. It kind of levels itself out. We are going to end a little prematurely this year, but not 3 weeks like what we started. We were picking peaches on about the 10th of June, which is practically unheard of.
3 weeks early. We actually started picking apples this morning, which is
I was going to ask
2.5, 3 weeks early. So we've stayed consistently early throughout the season. And like Austin said, normally that catches up to itself and you get back on track, but we just never have. So it's been a strange year as far as that goes. Yeah. So
you said you had about 5 varieties of apples that you're doing?
Correct.
Yeah, we have Red Delicious, Golden Delicious, Jonathan, Gala, and Fuji.
Okay, good.
So, and
we've got a 6th variety in the ground, but that was planted, about 2 years ago? Yeah. So we've still got a few years before we see any of those.
Wow.
We've got the new club varieties, as I spoke about earlier. It's hard to guess which one's going to be popular in 10 years from now and which ones you can grow in our climate and our soil. So we've kind of got a little test area that we're trying some new ones to see which ones we can stick with and think that we can grow to the quality that your chain grocery stores want. So our apple production is something we're going to hone in on in the next 5 years and try to get some of the newer varieties in the ground and expand on that.
So I can't resist, but what's it like to work with family?
It's good and bad.
Yeah, it's got its perks and its disadvantages. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade it for anything. You got to learn how to keep business and family, and at the end of the day, we all come together on the holidays and sit down at the same dinner table, and that's what it's all about. I enjoy working next to Austin's dad, Jeff, every day, and next to Austin every day, and my dad every day, and I find myself fortunate to be able to do that because not many people get to do that. So you just got to keep family and business separate as much as you can and make it work. So
Growing up, I have memories of the whole family going to our grandparents' house, sitting around the table, and our dads and grandpa and everybody be talking about the farm, and our moms would have to get on to them like, don't talk about that tonight,
Yeah.
So you, like Parker said, you just got to find a way to separate your family and your business. In the off season, we all kind of work together on whatever project or new implementation of orchard or whatever it is that we have to do. This time of year in our busy season, though, we kind of divide and conquer, and it works out well because my dad has always been on the farming side of things, and that's where Parker spends his time. And Parker's dad, Mike, has always been on the packaging, shipping, sales side of things, and that's where I spend most of my time. So my job this time of year really entails just talking to our customers daily, getting loads together, getting the product packed, shipped, stored in the cold storage. And Parker, he's doing everything on the production side.
yeah, pretty much take care of everything from harvest to planting to different spray programs that we're doing. So I'm out on the farm more than in the actual packing shed doing shipping and sales.
I spend a lot of hours in the office this time of year.
Okay.
That's kind of a love-hate relationship for me. I really, really enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy getting to talk to people and do the business aspect of it. But there are days that I really wish I spent more time on the farm. Monday and Tuesday of this week where it was 95 or 100 degrees are not one of those days. But when it's nice out, I, of course, want to be out there. But just it's what works for us, and I feel like Parker's a great fit in his role, and I'm a good fit in our role, and it's how we get things done and make that family and work dynamic balance itself.
Let's talk about the business of the business. But before, does your dads know that you came here to record a podcast and you're not on the farm?
Yeah.
Parker's dad's who signed us up for this.
Okay. That's good. He's a smart man.
I told Jeff this morning. Okay. I'm not going to be
That's
here.
good. So learning
By the way, apples are ready.
Exactly.
Great day.
So learning the business of the business, how are you doing that? What's do you have good teachers, good coaches, and you just jump in there and
All the above, I guess. I'm glad that Mike's in there with me most days. It's something where we bounce questions off each other or opinions, or you have to have that, is this the right direction, what we're doing? Do we need to do this before we do that? And so you're constantly just trying to decide what's going to be the most efficient way to get everything done that has to be done. As far as the business goes, it's about just that personal relation side, your PR side. We have customers that are buying thousands of pounds of product from us on a weekly basis, and part of my job is I answer the phone when they call, and you keep a good relation with them, and you make sure that they're happy with their product. And if something happens, they have some loss on something, you have to make that right for them. And so, it seems like more and more business is moving to email. So I'm constantly in front of my computer, checking my email, sending emails out, just trying to stay on top of things and keep everybody happy. And it's kind of, you're juggling, and you don't want to drop any of the balls.
One thing that's been super helpful to me is back to our employees. We've got people that have been on our farm for 30 plus years. So I've learned and, told myself they've got 25 more years experience than me. I'm not afraid to be like, hey, you guys have done this. Does this work? Is this right? And, or, what do you think of this? So that's something that I've learned to get their opinion because they know what they're doing. They've been around, and trust your employees a little bit that they've been there, done that. So I'm all open ears to any advice that they could give me.
Yeah, and in a state like Illinois, where there are specialty crop growers all across the state. There's not many of them. So that community of growers like us is pretty tight knit. In the wintertime, we spend a lot of time traveling to different meetings, meeting with other growers, university and extension people who are experts in the production like what we're doing. So just being willing to pick up the phone or go in person and have those conversations and meet those people and learn something new. We go to these meetings and it's funny. We talk every time we go. It's not about what you're learning while you're at the meetings. It's about the conversations you're having with people there, because trial by fire is the best way to learn. And somebody somewhere has done something and tried it, and it's either worked or it hasn't.
Right.
So being open to just having those conversations and learning as you go, that's as big a benefit and help to us on all things as about anything.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't think we think of like traditional farmers being flexible and open, but they have to be flexible and more open than most businesses. You said last year the peach crop was not good.
No.
Right. And so
wasn't
what
good at all.
So what do you do to make those switches to make sure your business survives the year?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it sounds like you're subject to a lot of trends, what customers want, what people are buying, workforce trends. You briefly touched on climate. I'm a farmer's daughter, so I know a thing or two about regulatory changes and how miserable that is. I mean, what haven't we talked about that people would be surprised about your business?
Maybe just like the oversight that we receive in our industry. In order to grow and sell to the customers that we're doing, there's market-driven things such as food safety that come into play. So we're Primus Global Food Safety Certified. Essentially what that means is we're able to sell our product to any store anywhere in the world. Now, we don't go international. We stay in Middle America mainly. But that's a huge part of mine and Parker's life at the beginning of every season, is sitting down for a few weeks and getting our food safety documentation updated and ready to go for the season. It's all about documents. You have to have everything logged that you're, just because you're going out and testing your water and you're testing your sanitation on your packing line and all that, that doesn't count unless it's documented. So it adds that whole new level of just involvement and stuff to do in general. But getting that food safety certification is dire for us, because if you don't get it or you fail that audit, then you lose an entire customer base from people who are requiring it. This year, it's kind of funny. I guess it's funny now. It wasn't funny at the time, but on the day of our food safety audit, Primus was on our farm. The health department showed up for our bakery, and OSHA stopped by.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Wild day.
June 21st was not fun.
I think that's like summer solstice, too. The longest day. It really felt like the longest day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We got through everything fine, nothing wrong. So
Just stressful.
it was just, and then you have to go back and what do they need? Okay, well, I'll have to go find it for them. Hold on. And so it was just running. And
Yeah.
So there's days like that.
Yeah. I think you've mentioned this before, but why do you do what you do?
Not that there was any pressure to carry on the family legacy, because there wasn't at all. My parents encouraged me to do whatever I so chose to do, but part of it for me is, like Austin stated earlier, just kind of carrying on that family legacy and, the namesake. And, and I go to work every day. My house is a quarter mile down the road, so it's something to be said for being able to essentially not work from home, but at home, and I enjoy what I do every day. So I learned from a few internship experiences that I had in college that it's not about the dollar that you make, it's about being happy at the end of the day. So to me, that's why I do what I do, is to carry on the family legacy.
Yeah, I mean, I would second everything Parker said. My parents were instrumental with me, and we don't care what you do. You can come back to the farm, or you don't have to, but you're going to go to college and get an education and then make a decision. And that was fine. I'm glad I did. My college years were some of the best years of my life up to this point. It was fun. I met a lot of people. I got new experiences. I also worked some internships. And ultimately, like Parker said, by the end of it, it was, what do I want to do with my life and how do I want to see my life go? and I couldn't really imagine it anywhere except on our family farm. Parker and I had a unique and awesome childhood experience. We've been best buddies since we could walk or remember. We had four-wheelers, we had bikes, we had the run of the place as far as the farm is concerned. We would spend every day in a pond or riding around or building our cabin or whatever, just having that experience. And, we weren't these kids in the neighborhood that rode the bike down, knocked on the door. We just showed up and got turned loose on the farm. And honestly, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I love the way that we grew up. And it's more meaningful to be back on the farm for me now than maybe ever before because I have a young son. My wife and I live right there on the farm. We're looking to build a home on the farm. And I want him to have that experience that I had growing up. And that's important to me. And it kind of shaped who I am. So with all of that and just, that whole fact of we are the sixth generation, we're the only two involved out of the sixth generation. If we don't do it, who will? And personally, I don't want to see the farm go out of business anytime soon. So that was a big driving force as well.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you had so much fun growing up and that the next generation will get to do that. But somewhere along the line, you learned hard work.
Yeah.
What other lessons from growing up, especially it's pretty special in today's world to be in a multi-generational and to even know your grandparents in the way that you all did. And so what other lessons besides work hard and have fun?
Yeah, I would say just keeping your nose on the grindstone, as I guess the saying goes. You have to ride the bad years to get to the good years. A lot of what went wrong with the fruit industry historically in Cobden is, there wasn't much left after the good years. You string together a couple bad years, and all of a sudden you're not profitable and you can't handle it anymore. So just being modest and humble and remembering that on the good years you have to be ready because next year might not be so good, and just riding that wave, being consistent. In our business, it's as much cultural as it is anything. You have to do things the right way, whether you want to or not, whether you can afford to or not, because that all pays off in the end, and it pays off in huge, huge dividends versus doing things the other way.
And anything else that you want to plug in the greater Cobden area as far as destination? I know we touched on it a little bit, but
Yeah, come to Cobden, come to Southern Illinois in general, experience what we have to offer, whether it be an orchard or a winery or the Shawnee National Forest, Giant City State Park, SIU Carbondale, the lakes around. There's so much here to offer, and you maybe don't appreciate it when you live and grow up in it, but you leave the area for just a little while and you realize just how great home really is. Yeah. And I would encourage anybody to come here and see what we have to offer.
So Parker and Austin Flamm, thank you so much for joining us, coming up to the big city today, being part of downtown Marion, Illinois.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you for having us on.
That's good. We want to thank you for watching the Small Town Big Business podcast, and thank you to our sponsors. That includes Arcadia Wealth Group, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, the Swinford Media Group, Watermark Auto Group Foundation, Banterra Bank, and also Southern Illinois Now. Thank you all for joining us. If you want to reach out to me about EThOs, Small Business Incubator, our co-working spaces, and also training and development that we do for small businesses and nonprofits getting going and starting and growing, you can reach out to me, Russell, at watermarkethos.org, or just go to our website, ethosmarion.org.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Big business is possible in small town rural America, and it is also possible for you to subscribe through one platform now, and that is ethosmarion.org. Has all the links to all the different platforms. If you like what we're doing, please give us a rating, give us a review, share your favorite episode with somebody who might like our content. I'm Jennifer Olson. I'm Director of Business Development here in the city of Marion. I am located at New City Hall. I don't know how long I have to say new, but 350 Tower Square Plaza. And pardon our dust. And if you can't find me at City Hall, all my contact information is out on LinkedIn.
Thanks for joining us. See you next time.